Hey, what's going on? What's going on? That's right. Once again, it's the Master Channel Podcast. The Master Channel Podcast, episode number 8. That's right. I am DJ Widebody.
And I'm CX, the producer.
And this is the Master Channel. We got a real special guest today. Something real nice in store for you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Memphis, Tennessee, let's give it up for Diggahertz, a.k.a. Tay Lee.
Yo, what's good, people? What's good out there?
What's happening?
Good, Widebody. What's good, CX? Thanks for having me. Although I'm not worthy to be on here right now, but I appreciate the invite. I appreciate you guys for inviting me on.
Hey, man. Pleasure and honor to have you on here, brother.
Stop it, man.
Yeah, whatever he just said.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely an honor to have you here, man. Definitely.
No doubt, man. For real. So, man, we know it's Master Channel Podcast number 8, man. We got Diggahertz in the building. You know, we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna conversate about this thing of ours, hip hop culture, man, both technically and art, the artistry of it, everything associated with the past, present, and the future. All right, we got a lot to talk about tonight.
All right.
We just gonna sit here and have a nice conversation, man. We got a series of questions we're gonna ask you. We're just gonna get into the nuts and bolts of it, brother, in this short span of time. I usually start it out by, let's get into it, man. I'm gonna start off by asking you, man, where did it all begin? When did you get into production? And as well, you're an artist as well, or you have been an artist in the past as well. I like to know how all that came to fruition, man.
You know what? I actually became a producer out of necessity. I won't say necessity, but it just came from being an MC and / singer or whatever. And what it was is that I've always appreciated and revered, the Pete Rocks, the Premiers, the Diamond D's, the Bomb Squads. It wasn't until I got my hands on a copy of Main Ingredient. My godmother had gave me a copy of the Main Ingredient, and she got it from like a sweeps, something from her job. And so she gave me the cassette. And when I listened to it, I've always been a Pete Rock and CL Smooth fan, but it was something about the interludes in between the joints on the Main Ingredient. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take those interludes and I'm gonna make beats with them. Only problem was I didn't have any gear, so my mission in becoming a producer became about when I started to do what we know as pause tapes. So it was me, just using what I had, CDs that my mom's had, tucked away in the living room. In our entertainment center, it was me buying tapes and just finding like certain little open drums or open little sounds and stuff, and with a cheap Radio Shack, dual cassette player or whatever, and just actually starting from there. And then I'll say a couple years later, when I was going to college, I used my Pell Grant money to buy my first keyboard. From Circuit City when Circuit City was on and popping.
Only right.
I think the first piece of gear I actually ever bought with my own money, thanks to Uncle Sam, was a Casio CTK 611.
Wow.
It wasn't the most most fantastic piece of gear, but it was I learned it, and I used it and made beats with it. I used to make the beats and put them on these gray Maxell tape, the high bias 90-minute Maxell tape.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, and the beats would be like 4 or 5 minutes long. So I would fill up a tape real quick. So I used to have a shoebox full of cassettes with beats on them. But when you're young and you start out, everything sounds good to you. You don't think nothing that you make is whack. When I would listen to them later on, I'm like, yeah, I probably did too much on this, or I didn't do enough on this, and the drums sounded thin. So I fast forward to about, I'm gonna say 97, maybe 98. A friend of mine, a real good friend of mine, was getting rid of a Yamaha keyboard, and those drums on there sounded a little bit better. So what I ended up doing was my setup then became a karaoke machine the Casio CTK 611 and the Yamaha keyboard ran through a DJ mixer and running into a dual cassette karaoke machine.
Wow.
So like I said, back then I was more focused on rhyming and singing than producing. But it was like I said in the beginning, I became a producer out of necessity. And then I'll say about 99, I kind of gave up. I gave up on it. Sold everything, gave up on it. And there were 3 albums in that period that were released that actually got me back into wanting to produce. And those albums were Slum Village's Fantastic Volume 2, Common's Like Water for Chocolate, and D'Angelo's Voodoo.
Ooh, man.
And so when those albums dropped, I knew, like, you know what, that's the kind of shit that I wanna do. And I'm not gonna be able to do it if I ain't got equipment. So I still focus on writing, and I know I'm getting a little long-winded, but
you good, brother?
I continued to write until a couple of years later, I stumbled upon the software that you could use without having to have any gear, which we knew as Fruity Loops. I eventually ended up, getting a copy of FL Studio in my possession. Excuse me, and it was a bootleg, but I eventually invested in it, and like the bulk of my work from, I'll say 2005 maybe till about 2000 and I'll say 10 or 11 were done in FL Studio. So that's, I know I'm long-winded with that, but that's where kind of like where my humble beginnings began.
No doubt, man.
Wow. So that you came from pause tape, making pause tapes.
Pause tapes, right?
Yeah. And you went from pause tapes to low pieces of gear, and all the way to software. And it's weird because well, it's not weird because of the time you came up, but were you did you ever get your hands on, even get to use from a friend or whoever, any type of hardware like an MPC or anything around those, around that time?
Yeah, actually, when I had those 2 keyboard setups. What's funny was one of my cousins had stopped by my apartment, and I was in there making music then. He's like, "What you doing in here, man?" I'm like, "I'm in here making beats." Like, making beats. So he saw my setup, like, "Wow, man, you need to get up with my man, Rich." I'm like, "Okay, cool." Shout out to my man Enigma. So we go by this guy's house on the college campus, and this guy's got the Roland XP50 and the MPC 62 setup. So I'm looking like, wow, this looks way more professional than what I have. And he was actually doing a lot of sampling and stuff. He did a lot of sampling off VHS cassettes, which I thought was kind of crazy at that time. And that was the first piece of gear that I saw within a more polished studio setup, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna get mine together like that a couple days. So a year or 2 passed maybe, and I reconnect with him, and by this time he possesses the 2000 XL. And the first time he let me get behind the 2000 XL, it was a wrap. I made it my mission to get one, and eventually I did. So like I said, my first encounter with the MPC was actually the MPC 62, which I really wasn't crazy about it. But when I saw the XL, I was like, yeah, I gotta get one of those. Real quick.
Well, let me say this. I'm gonna make a little disclaimer right now. Hertz, me, and somewhat wide body as well. We kind of pro Kai on here, but it's not to slight anybody else. And I just want people to know that before we even get to talking about Kai, gear as well.
If you tuned in looking for machine shit, I'm sorry. It's just not gonna happen today.
There's no knock to those, because you can make banging stuff on any of this stuff. But
indeed.
So let me ask you. I know people always say that. I'm gonna say this again. Did you find the MPC to be real intuitive when you first got on it?
When I first got, just because I had experience, you know, in watching, because I used to, what I would do when I would go to by my man's studio, what I would do, I would watch him work on it. I wasn't the type of, you know, sometimes the best way for me to learn sometimes is by me watching. I'm very observant in how people do things. Like, you don't have to show me probably once or twice. So I would watch him program stuff. And the only question I had for him was, how is everything staying in time? You know, because I'm thinking like he's playing everything in real time and he's not messing up. Like, so how are you staying in rhythm? He was like, well, it's quantized. I'm like, the hell is that? He explained the whole quantized phenomenon to me. So I was like, okay, well, so I can play how I want to play and it'll still be in line. Oh shit, that's all I need to do is get one and I'm good. So when I got one, a good friend of mine who lives on the West Coast, he lives in Phoenix now. Shout out to Joe Brasco. When I first got it, I hit him up when I was in the pawn shop and like, yo, so man, how do I check this shit and see if it makes sounds? He's like, Lo, you're gonna have to go, you know, put some sounds on a floppy disk and take it up there and you know, try it out. And it did. So it worked. Everything worked. So when I got it home, you know, it was just like no manual. There weren't a lot of videos floating around YouTube on how to do certain things. If there were, I wasn't checking for them. But eventually, I learned by trial and error. Just like with FL Studio, I learned through trial and error. Mm-hmm. So, in terms of it being intuitive, initially, nothing's intuitive if you don't have anything that guides you through it. But eventually, if you got that, you know, mindset to persevere and learn and, you know, actually better yourself, that all goes out the window. So
you a manual guy?
So,
oh, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Wi-Fi. So were you I mean, from what you told me and from previous interviews of everybody we usually interviewed who had different pieces of gear, and I'm talking about different pieces of gear. A lot of the gear we had back then, you know, fuck it, we can curse on it.
Damn right.
It didn't go, and what I mean, it didn't go together. There was no like sequencing this keyboard with this drum machine or none of that. So a lot of stuff you had to play it all the way through. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm getting to, right?
Oh yeah, right.
So when you seen him sequencing on the MPC, were you kind of like blown away like I was when I first seen it?
Man, the shit was like magic. I'm like, damn, you know. So I at certain times I was like, man, look, I want you to. I would tell him like, yo, I want you to, you know, take this sample. I want you to chop this up and make this beat. And he would be like, yo, so. Okay, well, won't you do it? Why don't you come over here and do it? Like, you gonna let me? Like, yeah. So I was trying to incorporate what I would see him do repetitively and do it myself. And thanks to the quantization, I was able to accomplish it. So when I actually made my first beat on the MP, I was like, you know what? I can do it. But I gotta remember too, this was like 2001, and by the time that I got an MP, it was 7 years later. So in that time span, I had kind of forgotten about how to actually do it, you know, to do it effectively. But I still remembered what I would see him do. So like I said, it was like magic to me to see him do those things because I'm used to pause tapes. I'm used to, like you said, on the keyboard side of things, I'm used to having to be meticulous and play everything and make sure that I keep in rhythm, or I got to go back and rewind that tape and replay everything. So when I learned, you know, how to use an MP, it made everything much better because I didn't have to go in and, you know, play for long extended periods of time to get the idea out. So yeah.
So are you a manual guy? Do you like reading manuals, man?
I hate manuals. I like to read, but I hate manuals. But as of recently, I had to throw that mindset in the garbage because when I acquired the MV8800, that thing is so many. It's so you have to do so much menu diving that you're gonna need to read the manual. So I had to break that mindset so I could get better at using it. And I would say I'm probably about 70% efficient in it now. So thanks to the manual, of course.
Man, that's dope, man. You got anything, CX?
Yeah. So let me get this straight right here. You get your MPC. You get your first MPC, which was what, a 2000, right?
2000 XL.
2000 XL. So that prepared you for the cow world of MPCs.
It did.
So while you had the 2000 XL, I'm assuming your production started to improve in different areas. So what was your next piece of gear after the 2000 XL?
After the 2000 XL, Lord, I actually bought the MPC 1000. And it was probably one of my best investments price-wise. Excuse me, but it was probably one of my worst investments based on the build of the gear, because it wasn't like, it was a totally different feel from the XL. The XL, the pads on it were remarkable. I mean, the velocity, the touch response, everything was on point. With the 1000, you had to do a lot of, overdoing it in terms of, sequencing and everything, because the pads were so tough and rigid that you had to almost beat them. Just kind of, it's almost similar to when Widebody used to play the machine. How he would drop an elbow on it to get a sound, to get it to make a sound or whatever.
B flat.
Right, exactly. But it just didn't feel. It didn't have that MPC feel that we've come to know.
You know why? Because a lot of people really don't know that it's the resolution. The 2000 XLs, the 60s, the 3000s, they only do 960. I mean 96.
96, right.
Yeah, they only do 96. And the other MPCs after that, the 1000s and even the 4000, they did 960.
Yeah, exactly. It did. It does.
Are we talking about PPQs?
Yeah, PPQs.
Yeah.
Yeah, PPQs. I mean, and for the listeners out there, PPQs is not nothing to really to be griping over. I mean, because hits been made in 96 PPQs. That's pulses per quarter. So we're not sitting here going to go all oscillating and talking about oscillators and all that crazy nonsense. Nah, but I'm just pointing out the differences between the 1000 and the 2000 XL. And another thing hurts. The 1000, the pads were separate underneath.
That's
as
crazy. Opposed
to the 2000 and the 2000 XL, where all the pads were together.
Right.
That was.
Has this since changed?
I think those sensors too. I mean to cut you off, Widebody, but those the sensors were. It's like everybody who had an issue with the sensors, because the sensors were they would short out for some reason, and so people had to start. That's when they started inventing the cork.
Yeah.
The cork pad. Cork pads to put underneath the pads to actually help the velocity. And after that, man, like after I purchased it, I made a few beats. As a matter of fact, I still got some of the beats that I did on it. But as soon as I was able to unload it, there was a guy on Craigslist who was looking for a piece of, hardware gear that he can make beats on, and he was willing to trade his keyboard for it. And the keyboard was actually a Roland Phantom S6.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, like, okay. I hit him up like, yo, meet me at this spot right here. I was actually at work, and he met me for lunch. And so I had like a, one of the power strips, I can't think what you call them, the power inverters in my work vehicle. Plugged it up, put my headphones in, everything played, the screen was perfect and immaculate. I gave him the 1000, And to this day, everybody who I tell that to, they're like, man, yeah, he got robbed. You robbed him. Like, nah, he willfully gave that up.
Oh yeah, he suggested it. Shit, same
Right.
thing too. Hey, let me ask.
Right.
Let me make a point here. So those listeners out there that do have 1000s, maybe you're not really into production like that. Maybe your pads aren't responding. Let me ask this question: is there replacement for these pads at the moment? Can you get one strip of pads for the 1000, or is it still just a single pad?
They ended up fixing that issue. It was only actually it was only a certain type of 1000 that was
It was the blue
those
ones.
problems. The
Okay,
blue,
it was the
blue
blue
and
ones.
red ones, right? Because
Yeah,
I had the black one, and I never had I never really had real issues, but I just didn't like that it took so much to get the idea out. I mean, it was just oh my god.
I had the blue one, and I had the blue one. I had an MPC 1000 3 times, and I had the blue one, and I even went so far as to open it up and put aluminum foil under the pads.
God,
Wow.
dang. Did it work?
Yeah, I mean they would. I mean, at first they were against it because they were like, because under those pads it's graphite slabs.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Under each
Right.
pad, and you can actually short it out by using aluminum foil. You know what I'm saying? But so Hertz, you went from you got the 1000, and then you got the Phantom, and when did you come into your own as far as production style?
Good question. I would say, because it's funny. I a lot of beats that I did early on in FL, I still keep them because it shows the progression and the growth of me as a producer. And it's funny. I was looking through a lot of files and listening to a lot of stuff a couple of weeks back, and I'm gonna say around 2007 is where it all started to make sense for me, because I paid more attention to sonics and paid more attention to how not only how I was chopping, but the sound quality of a sample. Like, a lot of times we can it's almost better. It's better to sample something clean and dirty up than it is to sample something dirty and try to clean it up.
True.
I had to learn that the hard way. And so once I learned these little small fundamental things, I think that made me better in terms of how to, get the idea to all, to be all the way equal, all the way across the board.
Hey, hey, I got a, you know what? Yeah, I got a question on that, and it's probably something I'm just thinking about asking this a couple times. If you had the permission and you had all the engineers and everyone, and you could create the perfect MPC, what features would this MPC have? How would it look, et cetera, et cetera?
The perfect MPC. It would have to have the build quality of the 3000. It would have to be, you would have the option to not only do things in 16-bit, but 12-bit as well. I would like it to have probably the screen of the X, maybe. The sampling ability of the 4000, and probably the synth of the 5000. I think that would be like probably the most idealistic MPC that I could create if I had the money and the manpower to do so. So yeah.
Dope. That's dope.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I gotta agree with you on that one. I mean, I look at it. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. I just look at it like the more you add to it, the less it'll take away from your creativity. To me,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Because if you put too many features in certain things, it'll stifle your growth because you always want these things, but when you get them, because I Hurts, and you can attest to it, and even you, Body, from using the ASRX. You know, back then we always said, man, we wanted a million hours of sampling time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The stuff we could do with a million hours of sampling time.
Right.
Then when we get hours upon days upon sampling time, we don't know what the hell to do with it.
You don't appreciate it.
Man, I'm telling you, I remember having to, buy extra memory for the XL and being happy that I had that much memory in it. I used to think, a long time ago, I used to think that I wanted an SP1200. Then I realized that, that would totally go against everything that I'm striving for production wise. I would, if I was to actually obtain one, it would be just for nostalgia's sake, because I like having limitation, and that's why I kind of keep the older gear that I do have, like my 3000s. I like to keep that stuff around because actually my foray into production went kind of backwards when I started to get serious about it. So it went from software, backwards to, analog gear or whatever. And so from time to time, you might see me on IG. You might see me, pull out the 3000, or I might pull out the 4000. And I might even hook up the MV88, if I'm feeling up to it. Because that, for me, it always keeps me sharp on both ends of the spectrum. I like being able to do what I do in the 3000, and I like to do what I need to do to it post-production, maybe in 2.0. And that's the beauty of, you were saying earlier how having too much sometimes can limit you as well. But a lot of times the newer stuff that they're coming up with, it kind of goes hand in hand with the old technology as well. So like now what I'm doing with if I just so happen to make a beat in the 3000, I'll actually MIDI it up with the 2.0, and I'll dump the beat within 2.0 and still go back in and actually add other little pieces to the to the puzzle to make it that more robust. So that backwards compatibility, I ain't gonna say it like a fanboy, but that's one thing I could say about Akai, with the way they've been always doing it, because I remember when the 60 came out, I had the 60 when it came out, and then the 62 and then the 3000, and then they always made it so you could port over. You know what I'm saying? As far as files wise, you know what I'm saying? And it's quite ironic that even in this day and time that you can still go back and pull up files from, MPCs all the way back to the 60.
Wow.
Right. Yep. And I've done so with when the Renaissance first came out, and that's one thing I really loved about the Renaissance, and just the 2.0 the MPC software in general. I was able to go back and find those XL files, or those 1000 files, or those 2500 files, or MPC 3000 files, and open them up and actually hear them within that software, and actually go back in and kind of tweak them to my satisfaction and add stuff to it. And that's the most wonderful thing about with this new resurgence of what Newmark is doing now with the Akai brand or whatnot.
Hey, I'll say this: 2018, you gotta give them hands down. I know Ableton dropped 10 in February or January, but Akai's had from what I've seen, a hell of a year as far as the new software, the updates, timely updates. Them taking chances and changing things. The live. I think is Akai's year, man. So far,
I think they're in a different space. They went back to the bread and butter of, because people been asking for another standalone MPC for at least 3 to 4 years or longer.
Longer than that, man.
Yeah.
When they dropped all the MPC Fly, and they came out with the whole IMPC stuff. People were clamoring about that, and they were really upset with the fact they went that way instead of going more so, like you said, the standalone way. And actually you actually got to credit Native Instruments for doing what they did with the machine.
Yeah.
Because by seeing that, you know, that, you know, it's like when you're a competitor, you see somebody outdoing you. That competitive nature in you is gonna make you you either gonna succumb to the pressure or you're gonna rise to the occasion. And so they had to come back and do what they did with the Renaissance in the studio and those things, because at that point, Native Instruments, man, they were running away with everything. They had the bag and they was running away with it.
Right.
And so, you know, and that's not to say that Akai didn't have their version of controller, but you know, Native Instruments were able to they were able to actually build a software that was compatible with, you know, a MIDI controller. And you know, it just caught on like wildfire. And you know, they had the MPD 16, but like, you know, it was mad difficult to use. You had to make sure you had the drivers in it. I was trying to use it in FL Studio, and I was like, you know what? I think I had it for about 2 weeks before I gave it away to someone. I was like, I'm done with this though.
But it hurts. You know, to be honest, Akai, they came out first with software to control a unit, because I had it, the Akai Assist. System.
Oh, that's right. It came with the 4000. Yeah.
Yeah, it came with the 4000 and the Z8.
That's right.
And the 3000. I had the S3000, no, the S4000. I mean the S5000.
Okay.
And you can control all those units from that software back then. But they didn't, you know what I'm saying? They didn't go all the way through with it, but it worked. I used to use it back then, but
okay. Yeah, the follow through when it came to that was kind of like lackluster.
Yeah, it was.
But I just remember when Machine first dropped, and you know, a lot of people had it, and you know, it's like Akai kind of left their consumers no choice, because like I said, at that time they had pretty much, I think the last piece of gear they had dropped was maybe the 5000, maybe. No, I'm sorry, the 500. And you know, diehard MPC users, they were like, nah, you know what? I'm sick of them mistreating us or me. I'm going this way or whatever. And so, you know, I've used Machine on a couple of occasions. As a matter of fact, when Machine first came out, I ended up getting a bootleg copy of the software just to try it out, and I actually dug it. I liked it, but it just reminded me too much of FL Studio. So I was like, I don't need two FL Studios. I just go back and do what I'm doing with FL and just use my my XL or my 1000. And I ended up going to a studio sometime after that with a friend, very good friend of mine. He had the the Machine Studio. And I was like, man, and at that time I had just got the Renaissance. Like, man, if I didn't get the Renaissance first, I probably would have had one of those. But it was just something about the Renaissance is what I had been waiting for. Only thing was it wasn't a standalone, which I didn't really care about that, because I looked at the Renaissance as part software, part controller, and part interface. And you couldn't beat that. I mean, no one was doing that at that point in time, not that I can remember. So it was like the perfect piece for your studio. You know what I'm saying? It was perfect. Because you didn't even need an interface to even rock out. You can just plug your monitors into that shit and your turntable, and you were good. You know? But I forgot what the original question was, but yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So let's get a gear rundown, man. What's your favorite MPC and what's in your studio now?
Favorite MPC, it's probably gonna be the 3000 LE. Although the LE and the OG are the same, but I just like the color scheme on the LE better. What's in my studio now? Okay.
Hold on, let me use the bathroom.
So are you wanting me to run down everything that I possess, or everything that's within where I am right now?
I mean, far as units that you use, you know what I'm saying? We ain't gotta go all the way down to the what type of XLR cables you got.
Okay. Well, in the lab right now, I'm just operating with a Cal MPK 249. I got the MPC X, and I have a newly acquired MPC Live, and I just hooked up my Boss SP303. So that's what's in the lab with me now. Oh, and I got the 3000 here. It's in like one of the record slots, and it's just chilling.
Wow. I always look at it like even when we had the last episode with Hill Prop, you're kind of in that league as well as us. We use different types of software, but all of us can make that the sound translate, to different pieces. Whereas though to the point though we can't even tell what we made it on, or the listener
Right.
can't even tell what they made it on. And that's an art. That's an art in itself, because some people say, "Oh man, FL got a sound to it, Logic got a sound to it, Ableton got a sound to it." But when you can make everything sound, the same no matter what you're on, you know what I'm saying? And
Right.
And I always tell people that who always say you have that hardware software debate. I say it's a difference with a person that knows what hardware sounds like because they had that hardware before. You know what I'm saying? And then they can translate software to make it sound like that hardware. Because to be honest with you, it's been times where I done heard stuff and I'd be like, man, what you make that on, man? What you use on that? You know what I'm saying? So what do you think it is? Our ears are tuned a certain way, you know what I'm saying, to come out with the same sound no matter what we use.
I think what it is, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think it's for me, it's about feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a certain way when I structure certain things, it's about how what I'm doing make me feel. It's all about the feeling that I have. And like my approach to it is I don't think I approach every beat the same, but it's gotta make me feel a certain way when I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? It's about a feeling. There have been times I can tell you in probably 2006, 2007, 8 maybe, that I would play stuff on MySpace, man. Shout out to Tom. And my man in Phoenix, Joe Brasco, would hit me up like, man, you make FL sound like an MPC. And I used to be like, this is before I got an MPC. I was like, huh? He's like, man, just the way you do stuff, I thought you had an MPC. I'm like, nah, I just got FL Studio, man. And he was like, man, you make that sound like an MPC. But I never understood what he was getting at with that. And to this day, I still don't, because I just try to approach everything from the way I want stuff to sound. And a good friend of mine who's he's a blues harmonica player, and he does so much stuff around here. When I invited him to my lab one day, and he was like, man, everything that you do is got like a certain feel to it. It's like, it ain't always lined up perfectly. He said, but it's got a certain humanized feel to it. And when he told me that, this had to be like not 90. This had to be like 2006, 2007 maybe. And I just started going for that. I just wanted to be, the groove to be right, the feel, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
We got you.
I got you. Well, let's say this, Hertz. Let's say at Guitar Center, you just won the goddamn raffle for a goddamn $10,000 credit card. They
Right.
said you got to spend everything in store. What would you get?
Damn, man. You know what? I know it's gonna sound real crazy, but I got everything that I want.
Don't start it, man. Don't start it. You're like the sixth person that said that, man. You got free money for free gear, man.
Free
Get
money
what
for
you
free,
want.
free money, free gear. I would probably end up buying. I would want the actual best mic that I can get. So let's say, but I know Guitar Center don't have those. So I'm gonna keep it real practical. Man, that's a tough one, CX. That's a tough one, man. Cause
Hey, used one that came through the door.
I want to cash that 10 grand in. But you know, I would probably.
They sell Macs too.
Yeah, that's probably 10 grand. I would probably buy two iMac 27s, 5K Retina. So that's about what? That's about 5-6 grand right there, right?
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, they probably still selling those. You know, they went to the iMac Pros now. I don't know.
Okay. So I know the iMac Pros about $2 grand. So I would
no. The iMac Pros, they start off at 5.
Okay, well let's get one of those.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves me about 5 more grand left.
Right.
I would probably, I would want a standalone mixers like a PreSonus, the one of the PreSonus with the automated
Studio Lounge.
with the automation on it. So I don't know how much those cost, but I'm probably out of money right by now. So
It wouldn't be $1,000.
No. Yeah, what we got wild about? That's about almost 2,000.
You got $3,000 left.
So I got about 3 grand left. I would actually, I would want a Sony C800G microphone.
Okay.
And if you don't know what that is, that's like one of the best mics.
Yeah.
Ever used in the studio. I think they go for like at least 3 grand. So that's all my money right there.
Damn. Hey.
Well,
Because in terms of sequencers and all that good stuff, I got pretty much what I need. And the most of the things that I would probably want the most are things like a stronger and faster computer, being able to mix in the box without needing the computer, and that mic, a good mic, good quality microphone. So that's about it.
So you just blew the 10 grand up on 4 pieces of gear.
Hey, it's my 10 grand.
Yeah, you're right. You didn't blow it up, man. I mean, shit, you getting a top of the line, powerful ass computer, starter packs.
Yeah.
So
you need that power, brother. Especially if you're gonna get a Mac, you might as well go all out.
yeah. Why about it?
Yeah. Man, that's
What else?
Huh?
What else? What you got for Hertz, man?
Yeah, man. I wanted to talk about real quick, man. What are your thoughts on the evolution of mainstream hip hop, man? What are your thoughts on the direction it has went in the last, say, 5 years?
Last 5 years.
Mainstream hip hop, commercial hip hop.
To be honest with you, and I it's crazy because I think the older you get and the more you have vested within the culture. Like, we all started out as fans. A lot of us didn't start out as MCs and producers and DJs. A lot of us started out as fans, and there are certain things within the culture that they're undeniable. But also, one thing about the culture is that the culture has a foundation that it was built upon. And I think as time erodes and time elapses, we're getting further and further away from the things that make hip hop as a culture, that makes hip hop hip hop. there are a lot of people within hip hop who are OGs and trendsetters and tastemakers and gatekeepers that ain't holding true to what hip hop is and what hip hop is going to be. I mean, it's going to eventually be. We've throughout the history of hip hop, we've always had people that did party records. You always had people that did more street level music. There was always a balance there. You know what I'm saying? For every Schoolie D, you had a Rob Bass. You know what I'm saying? For every KRS-One, you had Skinny Boys or whoever. Rodney O, Joe Cooley or somebody. But there was always balance. There was always something for everybody. And also there was a lot of people who were trendsetters and originators, and originality ruled in those days. There was no way that you would catch KRS-One sounding like Rakim or Cool G sounding like Craig G. So, it's kind of getting away from people, getting away from the foundation. But I think a lot of it is because we're not, and I'll say we're not teaching the ones coming up after us. We're not teaching them how to hold this thing sacred. Just like with anything that is bigger than one person. You look at the mob, there are certain things about the mob that, their foundation is their foundation. If you deviate from that foundation, you won't be living long, or you won't be a part of that, that thing of theirs. Right. So it's like, I don't know why hip hop and black music in general, as time keeps elapsing and things keep getting misconstrued, we're getting further and further away from the thing that makes this thing special and make this thing grand and make this thing, what it is, a teaching thing. It's a political thing. It's a party thing. And I think that we got to get to a point where we start to educate the young ones. Although it might be, a lot of them might be doing, we be doing it begrudgingly for a lot of them because a lot of them don't want to hear it, but I think sometimes you have to lead by example when it comes to certain things. I'll give y'all a quick story. I was mentoring a young guy maybe about 6 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And when I met him, he wanted to be Kanye. He wanted to rap and produce. So, I took him under my wing and whatnot, reluctantly, because I know cats that young, their attention span ain't very great. But nonetheless, I tried to show him some stuff and did a few drills with him where I gave him a sample. I took the same sample and I wanted him to make something in 10 minutes. Gave him 10 minutes. I made my beat in about 5 or 6, and I'm still waiting on him to get it done. And it's so many things that I tried to do with him because he just wanted beats to rap, make a mixtape, and be known. But what I wanted to do with him, I wanted to actually go through the process of showing him how to look for a sample, how to choose drums, knowing history about producers, knowing that having him know Kanye might be your favorite producer, but do you know who his favorite producer is? Do you know who he learned from? Do you know who he got this technique from? And I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds really music geekish type of situation, but I think if you're going to teach somebody something, you're going to show somebody something, you need to give them the knowledge that they're going to need to go forward with it. Right. And long story short, I kind of dissolved that situation because one thing about me, if I'm giving you my time, I need you to be prompt. And he was never prompt. He was, if I said meet at 4, he'd show up at 4:30. If I say 3, he'd show up at 5. So it's like, I got tired of having to deal with him not being punctual. Mm-hmm. But in the long run, I ended up running into him one day. I was at work and I was outside, and just so happened he passed by me. He stopped. He's like, "Hey man, what's going on?" I'm like, "Man, nothing much." He was like, "Yo," I said, "Well, how you been doing?" He was like, "I've been doing good, man." He said, "I just got back from Cali or whatever." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's what's up." He said, "Man, I want to personally thank you because everything that you ended up trying to show me, I ended up, I was listening, and I was able to use a lot of that stuff when I went out to California and was doing my music. So thank you." And sometimes you might not see the results right then and there, but eventually, if you put enough behind, educating and teaching people certain things about the one thing that they want to be a part of, that can go a very, very long way.
Mm-hmm. Well said, man. Well said. Well said.
But what I think about the music nowadays in the past 5 years, though, I know that was very long-winded, but I don't think much of it because I don't think there's a lot of substance. There's no substance and there's no balance. I could deal with something not having substance, but if everything they play on the radio is 100% non-substance, that means so where am I supposed to get my quote-unquote musical nourishment from if everything you're giving to me on a radio level is garbage or just doesn't have any substance?
Right.
So I think what's going to end up, what needs to happen, we have a lot of people who are like OGs and gatekeepers, but the sad part about it is that these particular people are the ones that are co-signing the stuff that's going on now.
Yes.
Whether it be for $1, whether it be for notoriety, keeping they self in a certain light and the image that they uphold or whatever. I don't know what it is, but like when I was growing up, if you was doing something wrong, and if you was a basketball player and you was shooting your jump shot wrong, or you was shooting your free throws wrong, somebody who had more skill than you or had more years or had more expertise was going to show you the correct way to do things. So we just need more people around that'll put, and styles vary. Styles are styles, but at the core of it all, you still need to maintain those core values. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere.
Shit. I wish somebody would have tapped Jakeem Noah on the shoulder when he was shooting that. Like, yo, man.
Right. Shooting that Granny Smith shot.
Hey, man, he's unexcusable, man. When you come from a father that was
tennis
one of
player.
the famous black tennis players. I don't know, if he knows father was French, because you got shout out to the black French people.
Yo, yeah,
no question.
Shit.
He had the means to be the basketball player that he wanted to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. His struggle wasn't like everybody else's struggle. His struggle was a whole different struggle.
Yeah.
Right.
His struggle was putting his hair in that bun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I was talking to somebody real quick. I ain't gonna take too much of your time with this. I was talking to somebody the other day. We had a real good conversation, man, about and I said, hey, man, it's nowadays we got the social media stuff. People like I could put out an album the next day on all the sites and everything. You would have thought by now that talented, a lot of these talented hip hop that stick to that have musical nourishment, if you will, and that are not played on the mainstream radio. You would have thought by now that the radio and record labels wouldn't have had so much power they have still today to be able to dictate what's being played on the airwaves, man. It just seems like that wasn't. If you'd have told me this 10 years ago, I was like, no way, man. By this time, independent artists and artistry and everything else would have took over, and wouldn't have been no such thing as commercial hip hop and all the substanceless shit that's going on and being played on the airwaves.
Yeah, I mean it's good music out here, and people shouldn't believe the narrative that just what you get on the radio that's the end all to be all. I don't think. I mean, the most sane person does not think that way, but when you're used to people giving you what the culture is that are not from the culture, of course you're going to buy into it because they're giving it to you at a consistent clip. You hear the same 5 songs every 30, 40 minutes. So
yeah.
So but the thing about it is you have to break free. I haven't listened to urban radio, man, since maybe 97. And
go ahead.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead. You good?
I don't think in this day and time like radio shouldn't be forced upon consumers right now. And the reason why I say that because if you have a car, most cars now, man, you got so many options to play what you want to hear, from satellite to the USB thumb drive to the auxiliary cord. Like it's inexcusable for you to say, "Oh, I have to listen to the radio." You
right.
You understand what I'm saying?
You're absolutely right. Absolutely. But, you know, some people they just used to it. I was having a conversation with maybe my wife, and I was telling her I remember being a kid, and like I had favorite songs that I used to love. You know, I remember when "Stay" first came out by Jodeci, and I was like, you know, before I would go to Sam Goody to go get it, I try to catch it on the radio if they were playing it. So if "Stay," let's say if "Stay" came on like at 4 o'clock, you might not hear "Stay" till about 7 o'clock when the DJ do a nightly rundown or something, and you know, on the countdown or something like that. So you know, back then you had so much, again, variety, and, you know, and balance on the radio, because you heard hip hop, you heard, you know, slow ballads, you heard so much stuff, and you had like, it was like a musical smorgasbord pretty much, and you never heard the same song every hour or every 2 hours or whatever. It was always some time. And then also too, the people had more control of the radio then. You know what I'm saying? They had more control of the radio then. You know, it was all about the people calling in and making requesting things. Now it's a complete 180, whereas the corporations, they're gonna force feed you what they want you to consume as quote unquote music or good music or whatever.
You know what happened with that? It was that a lot of radio stations were locally owned. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, in different markets they were locally owned, and then when Clear Channel came through,
yes sir,
and started buying up everything, you know, that Clear Channel, it's like when Viacom came through and started buying up everything. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
But I mean, even now, you know, it's no excuse, because the biggest record label and radio station is iTunes.
It is.
The reason why I say that, because iTunes already had a big foothold in the music industry, but you know, their platform is open to not just iOS, it's open to Android too, because you got Apple Music on both platforms. So it's no way. The whole thing is your marketing campaign. Now that's all it's about. It's all. That's the only thing it's about, is a marketing campaign.
Press kits, electronic press kits, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's marketing campaign.
I knew we were in trouble when they got rid of Teen Summit, man.
Oh man, listen, we can go all day with that one right there, but I'm not a person who listens to radio. A lot of, you know, I used to have to search for the music that I wanted to hear, because what's funny about that is that back in '97 there was a song that was a part of a soundtrack. It was called "Sold in the Hole," and it was by the Wu-Tang All-Stars or whatever. So we just got this new hip hop station down here, and it was actually a subsidiary. I want to say a subsidiary, but they was simulcasting from Hot 97.
Oh,
and
shit.
so ours was Hot 107.
Oh,
yeah. And so what happened was, you know, the Soul in the Hole joint was hard. It was nice. So I was like, I'm gonna call and request that, because I heard them play the instrumental over, you know, I guess over the announcements of some, you know, part of the show or whatever. So I called and requested. And when I talked to the DJ, he was like, "Yeah, man, yeah, it's a dope song, man, but we can't play that because we already got like it's not a part of our format."
Wow.
And I was like, "But y'all, you know, but that's hip hop. Like, what are you saying?" Like, so I'm sitting here looking like a hip hop station that don't play hip hop.
That's crazy.
But you already got something that's prefabbed for you to play. Like, wow. After that day, I stopped even tuning in. You know, it's like crock of shit. You know, especially for a dude who consider himself hip hop. Me, I consider myself hip hop. So when you ain't staying true to, you know, what you say you are, I can't be giving you my time and energy. You know, fuck all that.
Right on. I hear you, brother. Hey, Diggahertz, let me get your social media handle for the audience out there, brother.
All right, man. Social media handle. You can catch me at IG at Diggahertz. You can catch me on Facebook, Digga Mundane. You can also catch me. What else do I have, man? I can't remember all this shit.
YouTube.
Oh, you can catch me on YouTube. You can catch me on YouTube at Diggahertz as well, and
Twitter.
And on Twitter at Diggahertz. That's right. Good looking out.
Oh,
and so everything Diggahertz except for the Facebook page, yes, it's gonna be Digga Mundane. So yeah, so stop by IG, stop by Twitter if you want some conversation. Some crazy off the cuff conversation on Twitter. If you're looking for beat snippets and all that good crazy stuff, you can go by IG and check out my IG page. You can go and friend me on Facebook if you need to. I'm going to be putting up more videos, more content on YouTube, production-wise, in the near future. So you guys can look out for that as well.
No doubt, man. Hey, just want to say it's been definitely a pleasure, man, an honor, man, to finally, get to sit down with you, man.
Yeah, man. I hate that the person that y'all really wanted to show up didn't show up, but man, hey,
man,
I'm here. I'm here nonetheless. So we made the best out of it. So I'm thankful and grateful that you guys were actually, took the time to offer me a spot here to talk shop with you guys. So thank you once again.
Yeah,
no problem, man. No problem.
Michael Jordan wasn't available. So.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So hey.
Sorry, CX. Sorry, Michael.
Oh my Lord, man. Go ahead, wild about to see, brother.
Hey, so that's gonna do it for the this episode of the Master Channel, episode 8. We talk with Diggahertz from Memphis, Tennessee. Don't forget, check him out. Twitter, Diggahertz, IG, Diggahertz, Facebook, Digga Mundane, and YouTube, Diggahertz. I am DJ Widebody.
And I am CX, the producer.
And this was the Master Channel. Until next time, peace.
Peace.